And so let us begin our reflection on the deepest call to home, the home where we live content in the acceptance of who we are, the home where we live content in the acceptance of who we are. And so I'd ask Gillian and Nora and James, firstly, Gillian, to lead us in our opening hymn, which is a beautiful hymn from the prophet Hosea, the Song of Hosea, and then Nora to lead us in the opening prayer, which is written by Don Helder Camara, Archbishop of Brazil, going back some years. And James is going to read the gospel reading for the second Sunday of Lent, the account of the Transfiguration on Mount Tabor from Mark's Gospel.
Come back to me with all your heart. Don't let fear keep us apart. Freeze to bed, though straight and tall, so must we to others call. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply on you lies. The wilderness will lead you to the place where I will speak integrity and justice with tenderness you shall know. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply on you lies.
Come, Lord, do not smile and say, you are already with us. Millions do not know you, and to us who do, what is the difference? What is the point of your presence if our lives do not alter? Change our lives, shatter our complacency. Make your word our life's purpose. Take away the quietness of a clear conscience. Press us uncomfortably, for only thus that the other peace is made, your peace.
After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and led them up a high mountain where they were all alone. There he was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. And there appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, is it good for us to be here? Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. He did not know what to say. They were so frightened. Then a cloud appeared and covered them, and a voice came from the cloud. This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him. Suddenly, when they looked around, they no longer saw anyone with them except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus gave them orders not to tell anyone what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. They kept the matter to themselves, discussing what rising from the dead meant.
In the readings for Lent, the church has 3 cycles of scripture readings over 3 years, A, B, and C. We are currently in cycle B, and the readings are generally different throughout the 3 years and throughout the 5 weeks of Lent, except with one exception. The first Sunday and the second Sunday of Lent always have the same gospel readings. The first Sunday that Ray reflected with us last week is always that of the temptation of Jesus in the desert. And the second Sunday is always that of Jesus taking his 3 friends, Peter, James, and John, up Mount Tabor, where he was transfigured and where they saw things very differently on that day. And I believe there is a connection in these 2 Gospels. Both center on the identity of Jesus. In the temptations in the desert, Jesus has his identity cynically, opportunistically, and in a very scheming way challenged. He is goaded by the devil. Not in Mark's gospel, but it's certainly in Luke's and in Matthew's gospel, where the devil says to him, "If you are the Son of God," and he challenges him to do 3 things: turn these stones into bread, jump off the parapet of the temple, and your angels will come and save you. In other words, prove it that you are the Son of God. I know you're hungry and weak, and I'm going to put doubt in your mind and test you and provoke you. But Jesus stood by his choice. In the account of next Sunday's gospel, where he takes his friends up Tabor, the opposite happens, the polar opposite, where his identity is affirmed by his Father. "This is my Son, the beloved, and I am well pleased with him." Sonship of God challenged and affirmed. The person who's going to speak to you now just didn't have his identity taken from him, but he was faced with complete destruction. Over the last 14 years, he's had his own series of Tabor experiences, which has helped him back from the verge of death to a flourishing identity and to a journey of life and light and to seeing things differently. So I ask Dominic now to take up the story.
Good evening, everybody. As Mozzie said, I am a recovering alcoholic, and that's my brief introduction, but it's a very important part of what I'm just about to talk to you about. It's Tabor's in my recovery. It's seeing things differently. When I hear the word God today, it means so much more to me. For me today, God means faith, hope, healing, and love. The word God meant nothing to me during the last few years of my addiction, my alcoholism. I had no faith, no hope, no love. I was a shell of a man, soulless and hopeless. I had lost my faith many years before, I was spiritually, physically, and mentally broken. I had no respect for myself. I had no respect for others. And I lacked the trust of or for any other person. To be honest, I'd lost the complete ability to actually converse with another human being in the last year of my soul-destroying life, really. I'd already lost my family years previously through my choice. I didn't want my daughters to experience and see me going through what I was going through. I wanted them to think I was dead rather than see me the way I was. There was many times on the church steps that I begged God to not let me wake up. I no longer wanted to be a part of this world. The days were long and empty. There was no birthdays. There was no Christmas Day. There was no Easter. There was no Monday. There was no Tuesday. There was no day. There was no night. It was just time. Slowly killing myself. It was just time. I'd wake up between drunken comas at any time of the day or night in exactly the same place, totally alone. This was my rock bottom. I'm not here to talk about the dark times, though. I've spent many, many years talking about the dark times, and I will talk about them again. But tonight, I want to talk about and focus on healing and regaining my faith in God. This was a process with many little Tabors, seeing things differently. Although at first I thought I was reluctant to trust anyone and follow through, probably because I never knew what rehabilitation was or if it was possible. My first Tabor, if you like, was being befriended by the priest of the church whose steps I slept on. He approached me. He never asked me anything in particular at first. He didn't want anything from me. It was a source of comfort, if you like. I lived on these church steps for nearly 2 years on this particular church steps. And over time, this man became a friend. We talked more. I talked openly. I told him some of my life and some of my family. And unbeknown to me, this priest approached the services in Camden, and a lady came out to see me, a lady named Penny. I'll never forget Penny for as long as I live. I put Penny up there with all the angels. She was an outreach worker. She came to see me on a number of occasions. This lady had the patience of a saint. I was unapproachable. I was horrible because I'd lost the ability to accept any sort of kindness that was to come my way. She stuck it out. She absolutely stuck it out, and that's why I treat her as an angel. I had no local connections to London, nor to Camden. Penny built a case for me, and eventually funding was agreed for me to go into a detoxification centre, followed by a rehab, and but prior to that, to go into a stabilisation unit hostel to make everything possible. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I really couldn't believe it. To get into that hostel and to see a process in front of me, not knowing where I was going, wasn't a problem at that time, but I was starting to feel a little bit of trust. And it was growing. It was growing inside me. And I was able to talk more and open up. Then, of course, the healing process has to start, has to begin. This was more apparent in rehab. I mean, detox, to be honest with you, detox was a total blur to me because you are medically brought off alcohol and the benzodiazepines, and it was more. I was in there for 35 days. It wasn't the pleasantest of experiences, but I don't remember much of it. It was only when I landed in Kairos Community Trust, Bethwyn Road, that did the real healing process begin. Physical healing came quite quickly, really. The physical side of me, it happened quite quick. The emotional, psychological healing were extremely slow and extremely hard to deal with. This was a big tabor in my life where I did start to see things differently, a lot differently. But it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I had to put my life back together, and with the help of and trust, patience of others, this became possible. As time went on, I grew stronger. I had my daughters and grandchildren back in my life. That was quite an amazing thing, and that took time. I have a supportive partner now. I have 2 young sons. I studied hard. I've done lots of voluntary, and now I'm in full-time employment with Kairos. I'm actually sitting at my office desk now while I talk, which is it's quite a turnaround. I continue to work on my life and my recovery. I choose to do the right thing. This is not always taking the easy option. Life still throws up obstacles and hurdles my way. But I have enough people around me to make the right choices. Now, back in 2010, Mozzie put it to me over a cup of coffee, we should gather a group of volunteers and take a trip to Lourdes to assist pilgrims from Ireland on their pilgrimage. I've got to admit, I mean, the word pilgrimage and a trip to Lourdes, it was totally alien to me. It was totally alien to me. I had no idea what I was getting into or what to expect. I was very apprehensive about the whole event. But we went. 2010, we went, a group of recovering alcoholics and addicts with Mozzie on this first pilgrimage. I was very nervous in the beginning. I felt like a fish out of water. But by day 3, I felt so comfortable in my surroundings with the guests, with the oblates, with all the other volunteers. I was truly beginning to see faith coming back. I felt totally at home with this. This was a huge spiritual awakening for me. We've been going to Lourdes every year since 2010, and my faith has become so strong. The last tabor around this came in the 4th year of going to Lourdes. Mozzie asked me, again over a cup of coffee, believe it or not, if I'd like to do a talk to the oblates in Lourdes on that particular year about faith in recovery, faith in my recovery. I agreed. I was quite happy to do this. I was attending many meetings and I talked many times, and I felt comfortable with the oblates. Mozzie neglected to tell me that this talk was actually going to be in the church in Lourdes, in the reconciliation service in front of all the general pilgrims. I only found that out when I got to Lourdes. This filled me with a lot of fear. I felt physically sick at the time. To get up in front of a church, in the front of a church, and talk to general pilgrims and the oblates around me about my battles with religion, my battles with addiction, and my life. So I also knew that this would be the seal for me if I could actually accomplish this. From wanting to die on them church steps in London a few years earlier to now speaking at a reconciliation service in church at Lourdes was a true testament to myself, how far I had come. During the talk, I held back the tears, and on one occasion I choked, and I remember it well. I can remember it so well, and that nothing would come out. And I remember Ronan saying to me, if you get to that point, you look at 2 people in the crowd, just look at 2 people. I saw Mozzie straight away. He was about 3 rows back. I looked at Mozzie, and I looked at Ronan, who was standing up right at the back, and he just gave me a little thumb. And I composed myself, and I was able to finish. I was able to finish that talk. It was a massive sense of relief when I finished and I was able to sit down back on the bench. I processed the talk when I got back to our little hostel, and I just felt whole. It was something, it was one of them experiences that I just can't explain. I was invited into God's church in Lords to talk, but I walked out of that church with God firmly placed back in my heart, and my faith was fully restored. I'd had battles with, in early recovery, what we call a God of your understanding, and I am quite happy and privileged to call God my God. And Lord's did that for me. Lord's did that for me. I hold it very dear in my heart. I'd like to finish with a prayer. It's a prayer of appreciation, thanks and blessings in life. It's a prayer I've chose. It's a simple prayer, but to me, it means an awful lot. Lord, let the details in my life take attention today. A warm mug of tea, the gentle grass under my feet, and the chance just to gather and eat. Oh Lord, let the everyday pleasures ring out melodies in my heart. The smile of a friend, a warm, comfy bed, the sunlight on the trees and walks in the park. Oh Lord, let the more ordinary reveal its amazing delight. Clouds drifting by, birds sweeping high, the sunset that transforms day into night. Lord, may these things inspire me to praise and bring clear a moment of sight. Now I see how amazing the world is and soak up your goodness and light. Thank you.